Hello and welcome to another ARC review. And today we will be discussing The Lich Before the Darkness by Timothy Stormcrow. And this is one of the ARCs that the author contacted me via my email address and asked if I would be interested in reviewing his book. So I went to Goodreads to read the blurb. I can't remember if it was included in the email, but it probably was, to see whether it would be something that I would be interested in reading. And it caught my attention, and I felt a little bit cheeky asking for it for free because it's been out for about a year now. So I went on Goodreads. I went on Amazon and bought it for my Kindle. So let's get into the blurb. The fates of Aisling, Eric, and Maeve are intertwined in a world where the extraordinary is already commonplace. Aisling confronts daunting challenges in her new job as an investigative agent within the Department of Investigations and Discoveries. Eric, blessed with the unique ability to communicate with spirits, navigates a reality replete with ghostly presences, learning his very existence will change the course of history. Maeve, after being murdered, resurrected, and then fired from her job, is forced to confront the demon she was sacrificed to and start a new career. Their stories weave together to create suspense, action, and mystery, set in a world where gods walk the earth and monsters ride the bus, with a new take on some classic creatures from popular folklore and how they would cope in a modern world. Like the blurb says, the setting is Britain, and creatures from myth and folklore have been intertwined into a modern everyday setting. And the pressing political issue of the day is lycanthropy, which is werewolves. And there's vampires, revenants, they're quite the main ones. There are also references to trolls, ghosts, demons, brownies, and the bogeyman. And the boogeyman or bogeyman, however the hell you want to pronounce it. So yeah, so we do have the three main characters. We do get the three different points of view. So Maeve used to work for the Witchfinder General, which just reminded me of the Blackadder episode of season 1, where there is a Witchfinder General in there. And she gets sacrificed to a demon, but we don't find out which one. And when she gets resurrected by her companion and she goes into work to find out why she was sacrificed, she gets fired. So not only does she get sacrificed to a demon, she also gets fired. The poor lass can't catch a break. Now you will notice that there has been a bit of clothing change. And that is because I fully recorded this video last week. And then I didn't get around to editing it until yesterday. And I was happily editing it. Everything was going fine. Up until that minute ago, when suddenly there was no sound. I thought the editor that I'd used had crashed. I thought the video might have been corrupted, so I closed it all down, brought it all back up again. There was a few words, and then nothing. Dead silence. My little microphone, this little thing that I have down here, its battery had run out, and it didn't give me a notification, and I didn't notice that I hadn't charged it for ages, but I thought it would have been alright. I thought it would give me some kind of notification on here, but it didn't. So I am re-recording this. So if my emotions seem a bit sort of leveled, they weren't when I first did the recording, but they might be a bit more muted now that I am trying to do it again. So let's get back to it. I remember where I was. Maeve and Martin set up their own monster hunting investigation business, and they're doing quite well for themselves. Now, with Maeve, it doesn't actually say what kind of creature she is. She doesn't seem to be human because she has some powers, but she uses them in an understated way, but it's the way she uses them that I am damn sure she's some type of siren. She uses her looks and she uses her voice. She sings at one point to get her way. That shouted to me that she's a siren, but it's never actually said, so I could be wrong. Now, Aisling is a brand new investigative agent in a government department that specialises in solving supernatural problems. And as you can imagine, with all these supernatural creatures running around and integrating with the human race, that will bring up quite a few problems. And like, for example, there is a young guy who has been bitten by a werewolf. It's the full moon, it's his first turning, and the transformation can be quite traumatic and lead to sort of rage-induced destructive stuff. So like, they bring in somebody who's like a veteran and kind of calms him down, because the power can go to the head a bit, especially if they're quite downtrodden in their human life. And so we get that. I found that to be really, really good. Now, Eric is our other point of view, and I'm not going to talk much about him because anything that I say would be quite a spoiler. He has the ability to communicate with the spirits of the dead, and he has had this since quite a young age. He was possibly born with it, but he is just now sort of realizing that it is a power and he's not crazy, and to how much power that actually is, and how much of an impact he can have on the environment around him. But he doesn't really understand it. Now, this book is a debut novel, and I am more gentle with debut novels than I am with publishing house books. Because debuts, it's the first one. It's not going to be a bestseller. He had some doozies. So it's a debut novel, and the story is a little hard to get into, to get going. At least at the beginning, the chapters are quite short, so you don't tend to spend much time with the characters that you're trying to get to know. I think it would have been better if the chapters had been a bit longer, or they'd been together instead of like chapter 1 is one, chapter 2 is somebody different, chapter 3 is somebody different again, and it cycles around. Now, this is rectified after the halfway mark, because events start speeding up and you get to spend more time with the characters in their individual points of view. Now, it was a little bit choppy in places, but that is to be expected. It is an indie debut novel, and at some points it could have done to have more sort of description of the atmosphere and tension building, especially when the characters are finding themselves in bad situations. Like, for example, one of the characters goes down into the Paris catacombs, and from everything I've heard about the Paris catacombs is that it is vast, it is haunted, it is chilling, it's got atmosphere. And she goes down there on her own because she's looking for something. And she goes down with a tour group, but they don't get very far before she breaks off and lets them go ahead. And she finds what she's looking for, and there's a brief conversation and she's out. Now, that I felt could have been a lot, like, the characters have it a little bit too easy. I know I like authors to totally traumatize their characters in books. That is just me. But I think it could have been a bit more sort of tense, because I would imagine down there are echoes and you can hear drips and sort of sounds reverberating off the walls, but they're not actually where you think the sound is coming from, kind of thing. But that's just me. Now, I enjoyed reading this book. This book got 3.5 stars because I really enjoyed it. It is a damn good time. I enjoyed all the different bits of folklore that are interwoven. He doesn't just write about the normal characters of folklore that you think of, like vampires, werewolves. Sometimes I feel that they are overdone, but there's revenants in here, there's the boogeyman, there's brownies, there's probably lots of different ones to come, and that I liked that because in between the points of view of the three main characters we do have interspersed in it different chapters of like snapshots of what's going on elsewhere in the country with different creatures and different people. The book it reminded me of that does that is The Stand, you know, at the beginning where the disease has happened, and although you get your plethora of the main characters' viewpoints, interspersed in that you get short little chapters of something else that's going on somewhere else to someone else and how they're coping, what's happened to them, how they're finding it. And that's what you get in this as well. And I really, really loved it. They were my favourite chapters because it made the world seem a lot bigger, and it's a wonderful tool to use. And they were my favourite chapters until I got to the end. Now, past the halfway mark, now I said it was a bit choppy at the beginning, and it is. But once you hit the halfway mark or just before it, and it starts rolling, it really does start rolling. I was riveted. I was there, and on my Kindle I have how much percentage I've got left to read in the book, and it got down to like 10%, and events were just ramping up, and I was like, there's not enough. There's not enough in this. How, why, and what's going on? And of course, I could see it, and every time I was turning the pages and getting more into it, I could see that percentage dropping, and events were going like this, and the percentage was going like this, and there just wasn't enough. And it got to the end, and it was a gigantic big scene, and then you were done. You were done. And I was reading it, and I was like, where's the rest of it? What happened next? I've got to know. And because I thought it was just a standalone book. And so I asked the author, is it a standalone? And he said, no, it's part of a series. It's like, part of a series. The next one is either coming out at the end of this year, or more likely it's going to be next year. But I got to the end, I was like, you can't just leave me like that. It's mean. I love it. I love it. I love it when authors do that. I don't at the time when I finish it, but I do afterwards. And it because the events at the end, it really ramps up. You get into these more the bigger player characters, the bigger players in this sort of political landscape, and just and I just there's so much meat and there's so much chunkiness going on, and I want to know. I want to know. So yeah, if you like this book, I will link its Amazon link down in the description below if you want to go check it out, and let me know what your thoughts are on it. And until next time, keep reading and enjoy being traumatized by a book ending.
Soft embrace, dark star sips with calm and grace. Wine flows like whispers, secrets told in the night where dreams unfold.